He told them he could bring her back from the dead. So they cut open her skull and watched as he exposed her brain. Then he did something so vile, so surreal, it left even his most loyal followers frozen. And when she didn't wake up, he blamed them. This wasn't a ritual. It was the final act of a cult leader who had turned mutilation into scripture. Who were these people? How did they end up here? And why did some still follow him, even after the murders? This is the story of the Ant Hill Kids, and once you start it, you won't be able to look away. Before he was a cult leader, Roch Thériault was a 7th grade dropout in Quebec who loved reading the Old Testament. He wasn't a priest, he wasn't a scholar, he was just a man with a Bible and a gift for speaking. People said he had a presence, a kind of glow, the kind that makes you want to listen. And in 1977, when he converted to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Roch found his audience. He preached about healthy living, clean food, spiritual awakening. But it didn't take long for things to shift. At first, he just seemed devout, a little intense maybe, but passionate. But then came the prophecies, the claims that God was speaking directly to him, the sermons that didn't match scripture, the rules that sounded more like commands. And by April of 1978, the Seventh-day Adventist Church had had enough. They kicked him out. Most people would see that as a fall from grace. But to Roch, and to the people already under his spell, it was confirmation. After all, hadn't every true prophet in the Bible been rejected? Hadn't Jesus himself been cast out by the religious elite? That's how he spun it. I've outgrown them. They fear the truth I've been given. This is proof I'm chosen. And in that moment, his exile didn't weaken him. It sanctified him, because now he wasn't just a preacher, he was a martyr. He started calling himself a prophet, not metaphorically, literally. He said God had chosen him. He even gave himself a new name, Moïse, Moses, and some people believed him. They didn't just listen, they followed. They left their jobs, their families, their homes. They moved to the woods to live with him because he told them something they desperately wanted to hear, that they were special, that they were chosen, that the end of the world was coming and only he could save them. And when you're scared and someone tells you they can save you, you listen, even if it means cutting ties with everything you once knew. By 1978, Roch had his followers living in the mountains of rural Quebec, building a commune by hand. He called it Eternal Mountain. He watched as they worked tirelessly, sweating and starving, while he relaxed. One afternoon, he stood at the top of a ridge, watching them dig and hammer and haul logs in the cold, and he laughed, not cruelly, almost lovingly. They looked like ants, he said, tiny, busy, obedient, building something bigger than themselves for someone they'd never question. That's how the name was born, the Ant Hill Kids. He gave it to them like a badge of honor, but it wasn't, because ants don't ask questions. Ants don't rebel. Ants don't need love. They just serve. And to Roch, that was the ideal. A colony of worship, built on exhaustion, powered by fear, and all of it for him. When February 1979 came and went with no apocalypse, fear started to creep in. Some looked to the sky. Others looked at each other. Then Roch spoke. Earth time and God's time aren't the same. You're just not holy enough to see the signs. And just like that, the doubt was gone. And with that, the failure became another test of faith. And the group somehow grew even stronger. Why? That's where things start to turn. At first, it still looked like a commune. They wore matching clothes, handmade tunics, beige and baggy. Equality, he said. They ate together, prayed together, raised their children in the same cabins. But slowly, the rules started to change. You weren't allowed to talk to each other unless he gave permission. You couldn't have sex, not even with your own spouse, unless he approved it. And eventually, you couldn't have children with anyone except him. Roch said it was God's will, that only he could bring holy children into the world. And just like that, he became the father of more than 20 kids. Every woman in the commune, his wife or concubine or both. And no one stopped him, because by now, you weren't just following a man, you were surviving a prophet. If he said God told him you had sinned, you'd believe it. If he said your child was in danger unless you repented, you'd believe it. If he told you to sit on a burning stove, or drink his urine, or shoot yourself in the shoulder, because it would purify your soul, you'd believe it. But salvation had a price, a literal one. Roch didn't just control their minds, he controlled their labor. The commune ran like a miniature economy. The women baked bread, made herbal remedies, stitched clothes, and crafted trinkets. The men built, fixed, chopped wood. Then they'd load their goods into a van and head into nearby towns. Farmers markets, flea markets, selling handmade candles and jams. Smiling, quiet, harmless. People bought them, said thank you, walked away. No one realized they were funding a cult. To the outside world, they looked like peaceful homesteaders, a little odd, a little quiet, but polite. No one looked too closely. Back at the commune, if someone failed to sell enough or spoke too much to outsiders, there were consequences. Nothing overt, just corrections, chores doubled, meals withheld, or worse, a private audience with Roch. He called it purification, but the truth, it was punishment wrapped in scripture, and it taught them a simple equation. Obedience equals survival. Independence equals pain. Because the fear of damnation is stronger than the pain of fire. And he knew that. Roch Theriault wasn't running a commune anymore. He was running a prison, but one without bars. And the most disturbing part, some of the prisoners didn't want to leave. You've heard of cults before. You've heard of manipulation, abuse, control. But nothing prepares you for what came next. Gabrielle Lavallée had been in the cult for years. She was loyal. She believed, even after he burned her genitals with a welding torch, even after he broke a needle off in her spine, even after he shattered 8 of her teeth with his fists. She tried to escape once. He caught her. As punishment, he pinned her hand to a table with a hunting knife and cut off her arm with a cleaver. And still, she stayed. But what finally made her run again was someone else's screams. Solange Boilard had a stomachache, and Roch, who now claimed to have divine healing powers, decided to operate. No anesthesia, no antiseptic. He punched her in the stomach, forced a plastic tube into her rectum, cut her open with a knife, and with his bare hands, ripped out part of her intestines. She died the next day, but it didn't end there. Roch told the others he could resurrect her, so he ordered them to cut open her skull. And when her brain was exposed on the table, he ejaculated on it and waited. When she didn't rise, he said it was because they didn't have enough faith. He buried her behind the commune and went on as if nothing had happened. That was the moment Gabrielle knew if she didn't leave, she'd die there. Or worse, she'd become like him. But leaving wasn't easy. She'd been with him for over a decade. She believed he could heal. She believed he was chosen. And even after the burns, the beatings, the surgeries, some part of her still believed he loved her. That's how deep it goes. She told herself that maybe she deserved it, that maybe she'd failed God, that if she just proved her loyalty one more time, it would stop. But watching Solange die changed something. It wasn't just the violence. It was how calm he was, how he treated it like a performance, how the others followed orders with blank faces, like it was holy. And she realized this wasn't salvation. It was a slaughterhouse dressed up as a church. She didn't know where she'd go, didn't know if she'd be hunted down, didn't even know if she'd survive the escape. But staying, that would mean dying as someone she no longer recognized. Gabrielle ran. One arm, barely able to walk, but she made it. And when she reached the authorities, she told them everything. At first, they didn't believe her. Who could? But then they saw the scars, the burns, the missing arm, and the story unraveled. But before any sentence came down, Gabrielle stood before the world. One arm, dozens of scars, and a calm voice that cut deeper than any weapon he ever used. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She told the court what he did, every detail, how she'd been burned, how he'd made her hold down Solange, how she lost herself piece by piece, day by day. Some people wept, others couldn't even look at her. Even the judge paused when she finished, visibly shaken. And Roch, he stared at the floor. For once, he had nothing to say. That testimony changed everything. It turned whispers into headlines, suspicions into facts, and a monster into a man finally seen for what he was. That courtroom wasn't just a trial, it was her exorcism. Police raided the commune. They found children living in filth, starving. Some still loyal to the man who abused them. They found the graves. And they found Roch Thériault, calm, smiling, as if none of it had happened. He was arrested in 1989 for assault, 12 years in prison. But that wasn't the end, because Gabrielle kept speaking. Her full report led to more charges, more investigation. And eventually, he was convicted of second-degree murder for what he did to Solange. Life sentence. No parole for 10 years. But when the time came, he didn't even apply. He stayed in prison until the day he died. But prison didn't end his reach. Some of the women, the ones who still believed, visited him regularly. They didn't just bring letters or prayers. They brought loyalty, devotion, and eventually, children. Even while incarcerated, Roch fathered 4 more. Because to them, he wasn't a convict. He was still the prophet, still the chosen one, still Moïse. And even though his sermons were now whispered through plexiglass, even though the commune was gone and the world had moved on, he was still writing scripture in their minds. That's what cults do. They don't just trap your body, they take your will, your memory, your ability to decide who you are without them. And sometimes even the steel bars can't hold that. And even that ending wasn't peaceful. In 2011, his cellmate stabbed him in the neck with a shiv. And just like that, Moïse was gone. The prophet was dead. The cult was over. But the damage, that stayed. What's maybe even more disturbing is how long it took to stop him. Authorities had their suspicions for years. They knew the commune was isolated. They knew the living conditions were primitive. They even removed 17 children in 1987. But they didn't, or couldn't, intervene with the adults. Why? Because legally, it was a church. That's how Roch registered the commune. And under that label, it became nearly untouchable. No matter how bizarre the theology, no matter how many bruises, no matter how much it looked like something was wrong, he hid behind faith. And for a long time, that was enough. It wasn't just charisma that protected him. It was paperwork. You probably think you'd never fall for something like this. Most people do. But cults don't start with torture. They start with love, with someone telling you you're special, that you're chosen, that they understand your pain, and they can make it go away. And if you're hurting, if the world feels cold or unfair or meaningless, that offer can feel like salvation. Roch Theriault didn't use chains. He used fear, shame, hope, love. That's what makes cults so terrifying. They don't take your freedom all at once. They take it piece by piece, until one day you look in the mirror and don't even recognize yourself. Some survivors escaped with scars. Others escaped with something worse, guilt, not just for what was done to them, but for what they did to others. Some held Solange down. Some passed the tube. Some said nothing when children were hurt. And even though they were victims, terrified, brainwashed, many still wake up years later, wondering if that moment made them monsters too. That's not just trauma, that's moral injury. Not a flashback, a fracture in your soul. Because once you cross a line, even under duress, you spend the rest of your life trying to figure out who you are on the other side of it. For many survivors, that's the real battle. Not escaping the cult, but escaping the version of themselves the cult created. So maybe the question isn't, how could they follow him? Maybe it's, what would it take for you to follow someone like him? All it takes is the right wound and the wrong voice.